My name is Terry Timmer. I'm 30. And 3 hours after landing from London, I stood on a sun-bleached driveway, staring at my own front door like it was a question I couldn't answer. Two cars sat where there should have been none. The grass, which I'd left winter blunt and patchy, was trimmed into neat stripes. A ceramic plaque I'd never seen before hung beside the doorbell, "Home, sweet home," as if the house itself were smirking. I tried my key. It caught, then refused me, the way a friend doesn't quite meet your eyes when they're lying. The door opened before I knocked twice. "Terry," my sister sang, living room light haloing her like the world's most unwanted welcome. Lydia, 32, barefoot in fuzzy slippers, a mug steaming in her hand. The mug said "Homebody." I almost laughed. "What are you doing in my house?" I asked, and shock sharpened the word "my." She tilted her head. "Your key won't work." "Oh, right. I changed the locks." She stepped aside with theatrical courtesy. "Come in. See what I've done." Inside, my brain kept trying and failing to put the pieces back where I'd left them. Fresh paint, warmer by a shade, vinyl plank glimmering where scuffed tile used to be, the faint smell of lemon oil, new blinds catching the afternoon. "I was gone for 3 months," I said. "On a work assignment. I told everyone." "Abandoned," Lydia corrected cheerfully, sipping. "Legally, that's the term. You left it vacant, deteriorating. I stepped in. Utilities in my name. Receipts for improvements. 3 months of continuous, open, notorious occupation." She flashed a smile that never reached her eyes. "It's called adverse possession, Terry. You should thank me." I stared at the mug so I wouldn't stare at her. When we were kids, Lydia used to claim my Halloween candy to protect it from ants. I'd forgotten how her voice went softest when she was stealing. "This is breaking and entering," I said. "Get out, now, or I call the police." She reached for a zippered leather folio on the coffee table and opened it like a magician revealing a dove. Color-tabbed receipts, printed emails, photos, before and afters labeled in tidy font. "Go ahead and call. I'll show them my documentation." She tapped the folio. "Or we could be adults. I've increased the value of your property by, conservatively, 30 grand. Compensate me for improvements, and I'll consider relocating." The word "consider" scratched down my spine. I stepped outside and dialed. When the patrol car rolled to the curb, the officer listened, then listened to Lydia, and then said the two words I dreaded: civil matter. He wouldn't remove her. He looked almost apologetic when he said to start the eviction process. On the ride back to my apartment, the sky turned from bright to the color of old receipts. I called Patricia, my general counsel for work things, the practical woman who had coached me through contract landmines in 3 different time zones. "You're kidding," she said. Flat, not a question. "No? Okay. First, don't do anything rash. Second, document everything. Third, I'm reading your state's adverse possession statutes tonight." "Is it possible?" I asked. "Not in 3 months," Patricia said, "but she's established residency and made improvements. That muddies the water. We'll likely need a real estate specialist." I hung up and called my parents. I don't know why I expected a thunderclap of outrage. Lightning never strikes where you plan for it. "Well, Lydia has been working so hard," Mom said. She showed us pictures. "The backyard looks wonderful now. Do you remember how you always said you'd fix that fence but never had time?" Dad cleared his throat. "Your sister saw an opportunity and took initiative. Maybe you two can partner." Partner. The word tasted like drywall dust. "She changed my locks," I said. "She forged a life inside my house." "Don't be dramatic, Terry," Dad said gently, the way he says it when he wants me to be quiet. "You've been in London chasing promotions. Lydia is finally stable. Why not work something out?" My mouth opened, then closed. My boyfriend Evan had texted me last month about odd login alerts on my cloud drive while I was overseas. I'd brushed it off as travel fuzz and weak hotel Wi-Fi. On the phone with my parents, I suddenly saw that alert like a flare I'd refused to watch. After we hung up, a message from Lydia pinged. "Send all eviction notices through my attorney. Also, utilities have been costly. The heat needed to run high to cure the new flooring. We can discuss reimbursement." A winking emoji. I drove back to the house the next day with the body cam app silently recording on my phone. You learn these small paranoias fast. Lydia let me in with the satisfied patience of a cat allowing a dog to pass. "I'll be bringing my lawyer next time," I said. "Delightful," she said, and her smile finally reached her eyes. Oh, one more thing. Out of courtesy, I drafted emails to your work account while you were away to express my concerns. Paper trail, you know? I never heard back, but she patted the leather folio. I printed them for the file. I felt the floor tilt under the new vinyl. That night, I sat on my kitchen floor in the dark. The fridge hummed too loud. I pulled up my work inbox, the one I barely touch when I'm in the field. There they were, a slow, careful cascade of messages from an address that looked like mine if you didn't look hard, one extra letter in the handle, reply chains that appeared to show me thanking Lydia for stepping in as property manager. "Evan," I whispered to the quiet apartment and called him. He answered on the second ring. "You're home," he said, then softer. "You okay?" "Do you remember those weird login pings?" "Yeah, I thought it was just your tablet syncing." "What if it wasn't?" I said. "What if it was Lydia?" Evan went still. I could hear him thinking. "I'll come over," he said. "We'll run through your devices tonight. Start changing everything. Two-factor, new passwords, the works." I stared at the blank square of the microwave clock. I didn't want him to see me like this, small and shaking, the way I used to feel when Dad would praise Lydia's hustle and tell me to stop overreacting. But this wasn't childhood anymore. This was a lock I couldn't open in a house I owned, and a sister who crooned the law like a lullaby. "Okay," I said, "come." He brought takeout and a patient quiet and the kind of flashlight that makes shadows look honest. We changed what we could change. Everything else we wrote on a yellow pad labeled "to fix." Before he left, Evan squeezed my hand. "You're not crazy," he said. "You're being robbed." After he was gone, I lay awake until the night thinned. At dawn, I drove to the rental once more, parking across the street. In my rearview mirror, I watched the blinds lift, one slat at a time, as if the house were slowly opening its eyes. The door swung inward. Lydia stood there in those same fuzzy slippers, the home body mug steaming, looking out over a yard I paid for, at a sky we both borrowed. "Send me that formal eviction," she called lightly into the morning. Her voice carried across the trimmed lawn, bright and musical, like a ringtone I couldn't turn off. By the time Monday came, my nerves felt like frayed wires. Patricia called early. "I found someone. James Morrison. Specializes in property disputes. Real bulldog type." Good, I thought, because Lydia was already turning my house into a zoo. When we arrived that afternoon, James in a navy suit, me gripping a clipboard like armor, Lydia greeted us as if we were tenants applying for a lease. She wore a floral sundress, her hair pinned up, makeup immaculate. The living room gleamed. "Welcome," she said brightly. "I assume you're here to admire my work?" James didn't smile. "We're here to document it." He moved through the house, snapping photos and dictating notes. Fresh paint, laminate floors, new fixtures. Lydia followed like a tour guide, listing improvements down to the brand of sealant. When he asked for receipts, she produced that same leather folio. I noticed she'd added colored tabs since last time, yellow for utilities, blue for materials, green for labor. It was almost impressive. "See, I've invested heavily," she said, handing James a thick stack. "Terry should reimburse me fairly." "You realize none of this constitutes ownership," James said evenly. "Oh, but it constitutes residency," Lydia countered. 3 months of maintenance, continuous presence, improvements. That's called stewardship. James looked at me. "She's been studying." I didn't answer. My jaw hurt from clenching. Then I heard voices down the hall, 2 young men emerging from the bedrooms, both startled. "This is the landlord?" one asked. Lydia beamed. "These are my tenants. I rent the spare rooms." I stared. "You what?" "They have lease agreements," she said smoothly, pulling out papers. "I'm the property manager." James took the contracts, scanned them. "You're collecting rent on her property?" "Her former property," Lydia corrected. "Possession, maintenance, investment." "Fraud," James cut in. "We'll see how a judge feels about that." The tenants looked panicked. "Wait, did we do something wrong?" one asked. "No," I said gently. "Your victim's here too. Keep paying rent until we sort this out. Just don't sign anything else." After they left, Lydia's smile thinned. "You're scaring off good tenants, Terry. Not very professional." "Neither is stealing someone's house." "Abandoned," she said again. That word had become her prayer. That night, an email from my homeowner's insurance pinged. "Your water damage claim has been processed." My breath stopped. I hadn't filed a claim. A call confirmed it. Lydia had filed under my policy, claimed a burst pipe, and pocketed the $5,000 payout. Patricia's voice cracked through my phone. That's insurance fraud. Start saving every document, every message. She's digging herself a hole. I tried to believe that, but Lydia was winning hearts where it mattered most, my parents. Mom called crying that evening. Your sister says you're threatening her with lawyers. She's done nothing but help. Your father thinks you're being territorial. Mom, she forged emails. She's stealing rent money. She told us you're exaggerating. Her voice trembled. She even showed us the tenant's checks, Terry. I gripped my phone. Because she stole them. Dad got on the line. Look, sweetheart, Lydia's the only one improving family assets. Maybe if you'd asked her before flying off to London. She's a thief, Dad, he sighed. She's family. Family doesn't take each other to court. I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, then maybe family shouldn't rob each other blind. And hung up. Evan came over that night, bringing coffee and quiet. He'd been scrolling on his phone. You should see this, he said. He turned the screen toward me. Jenna, his ex, had posted an Instagram story. A subtle dig, but unmistakable. Some people abandon homes but still play victim online. Maybe maintain what's yours before crying theft, #family drama, #karma. Lydia followed Jenna's account. Of course she did. Do you think she's talking about me? I asked, already knowing. Evan hesitated. Jenna's always fishing for attention. But yeah, probably. The humiliation burned deeper than anger. Lydia was poisoning my name, turning me into the careless sister who let things happen. I said nothing for a long time. The only sound was the clink of his mug against the counter. When he left, I scrolled my messages, reading Lydia's latest. Hey, sis. Since you're refusing to be reasonable, my attorney will reach out. I'm documenting your harassment. Maybe next time, don't abandon your property or your family. No emojis this time. Just a chilling professionalism. The next morning, Patricia texted, James wants to meet tomorrow at 10. He says this is bigger than eviction. When I asked what she meant, she sent only 2 words. Forgery suspected. I stared at my phone until the letters blurred. The same letters Lydia had once practiced forging on my old report cards. History doesn't repeat, it copies and pastes. When I arrived at James Morrison's office the next morning, the first thing I noticed was the wall of framed eviction notices, signed victories from past battles. His assistant handed me coffee before I could even ask. James leaned back in his chair, a folder open in front of him. Terry, your sister's clever, I'll give her that, but she's sloppy where it counts. He slid a few printed pages across the desk. Fake emails, my name, my signature, all acknowledging Lydia as acting property manager. These are forgeries, James said. And whoever did them used a spoofed email nearly identical to yours. We traced the IP, same region as your parents' house. My stomach dropped. You're saying she forged my signature from their Wi-Fi? He nodded. Classic identity overlap. She probably used your old devices or remembered your passwords. You'd be shocked how many family fraud cases start this way. Patricia joined in quietly. Terry, we're filing for injunctions today. No more benefit of the doubt. By Thursday, we had evidence piling like snow. Fake receipts from home improvement stores. Rent ledgers proving. Lydia pocketed $12,200 a month from the tenants. Utility bills spiking 300%. The electrician later whispered he suspected crypto mining rigs in the basement. She's running a racket, James muttered. Not just squatting, she's monetizing it. The worst part was how confident she was. Lydia's emails now came signed off with Lydia Timmer, property manager, Suncrest Realty Holdings. She'd invented an entire company. I told Evan over dinner. He listened in silence, then finally said, that's not just desperation. That's delusion. I keep thinking she'll hit a wall, I said, but she builds new ones faster than I can break them. He reached across the table. Then we'll start hitting harder. The first hearing came 2 weeks later. Lydia arrived early, wearing beige like innocence itself, flanked by an attorney named Sarah Collins, a woman with the kind of smile you don't trust around contracts. Sarah spoke first, calm and precise. Your Honor, my client, Ms. Lydia Timmer, has spent months maintaining and improving a property that was, by all accounts, abandoned. She has invested her own funds and made the home habitable again. I clenched my hands beneath the table. James stood. Your Honor, my client, Terry Timmer, did not abandon anything. She owns this property outright, has documentation to prove it, and her sister unlawfully entered, forged documents, and rented out rooms for profit. This is not a civil misunderstanding. It's calculated theft. The judge leaned forward. Do you have proof of these alleged forgeries? James handed over the email analysis and a copy of Lydia's falsified receipts. The judge scanned them, frowning. "This will need further review," she said. "For now, Ms. Lydia may remain in the home under supervision until a court-appointed assessor evaluates her claimed improvements." I nearly shouted, "She's rewarding her!" James put a hand on my arm. "It's procedure. Don't take the bait." Lydia smirked at me as we left the courtroom. "Don't worry, sis. I'll take good care of our place." Outside, Patricia exhaled. "This will drag for months. Judges hate domestic property cases." I just stood there, staring at Lydia's reflection in the glass doors as she posed for a photo with her lawyer. The caption appeared on social media that evening. "Victory for fairness and hard work. Some people never appreciate family." Within hours, cousins were texting me asking why I was suing my own sister. That weekend, I drove to my parents' place, ready to end the charade. I brought James as a witness because I knew what would happen. When I told them about the forged emails and fraudulent rent, my mother's hands shook. "Lydia wouldn't—" "She did, Mom. She's been paying you, hasn't she?" My father's eyes flickered. "So what if she helps with expenses? She's finally being responsible." James set down a paper. "She's been paying you with stolen money, rent from your daughter's property." The silence cracked open like glass. Mom began to cry. Dad just stared at the wall. "So what?" he muttered. "She's trying to make something of herself. You've always had more, Terry. You could afford to help her." "Help her?" I snapped. "By letting her commit crimes in my name?" Dad's voice turned cold. "Maybe if you'd shared your success instead of showing off, your sister wouldn't have had to find her own way." I felt something in me harden. Her way is stealing from me. James's phone buzzed, an email from an address we didn't recognize. He read it, eyes widening. "Terry, you might want to sit down." The message was from Barbara Chen, the owner of a property I'd once looked at months ago. "Ms. Timmer, confirming our meeting next week about the purchase of the Maple Street property. Your sister said you're sending the down payment wire Friday." My blood ran cold. I called Barbara immediately. "I'm sorry, what meeting?" "Your partner Lydia scheduled it. She showed me power of attorney documents signed by you. Is there a problem?" I stared at James. "She forged my signature again." Barbara hesitated. "She also provided proof of funds from your account." James took the phone. "Ma'am, this is Attorney Morrison. Stop all proceedings. Those documents are fraudulent." Barbara gasped softly. "Oh my God." By the time I hung up, my hands were shaking. Lydia wasn't just trying to take one house. She was building an empire out of my identity. James said quietly, "This is now criminal. Identity theft, forgery, fraud." I nodded, numb. "Call Detective Williams. File everything." I drove home in silence, headlights carving through the rain. Evan called, asking if I was okay. "No," I said, "but I'm done being polite." The next morning, I pressed send on the police report. And as I did, another email arrived, from Lydia. "Sis, you've made this hostile. Don't push me. You know how much you hide, how much I could expose. Let's just call it even. One property for peace." I stared at the screen, heartbeat loud in my ears. She'd always known where to stab. I whispered into the still air, "You picked the wrong sister." The courthouse smelled faintly of bleach and nerves, rows of hard benches, humming fluorescent lights. And there she was, Lydia. Pressed beige suit, pearl earrings, hair slicked into courtroom purity. She even brought a sleek black notebook embossed with her fake company name, Suncrest Realty Holdings. Across the aisle, Sarah Collins, her lawyer, flipped through a stack of files. Confident, predatory. James leaned toward me. "Don't react. She'll try to bait you. We're going to dismantle this quietly." Easier said than done. When the hearing began, Sarah spoke first. "Your Honor, my client acted in good faith. She managed an abandoned property, improved it at her own expense, and was met not with gratitude, but hostility and defamation." Defamation. The word almost made me laugh. James stood, calm, controlled. "Your Honor, we have evidence that Ms. Lydia Timmer forged power of attorney documents, created false invoices, collected rent under false pretenses, and attempted to purchase additional properties using my client's identity. This is not an improvement dispute. It's criminal impersonation." Sarah Collins arched an eyebrow. If Ms. Timmer had power of attorney, it would hardly be impersonation. James smiled thinly. "About that." He opened a folder and presented 2 documents. One, the forged POA Lydia had submitted to the Maple Street seller. 2, A forensic report showing my signature was digitally lifted from a past lease form and pasted onto that document. The judge's face changed. That slow shift from curiosity to disgust. Sarah began to object, but James continued. These templates were downloaded from a legal form website 3 weeks ago, 2 months after my client's overseas assignment. Ms. Lydia's laptop metadata shows identical timestamps. The courtroom went dead silent. Lydia's lips parted, then closed again. Her eyes darted toward her lawyer, for the first time, uncertain. Ms. Collins, the judge said evenly, you might want to advise your client. This evidence will be referred to the district attorney's office for review. Sarah nodded, trying to stay composed. James leaned toward me and whispered, That's the ball game. Outside the courthouse, the air was sharp with victory and disbelief. Then I heard her voice behind me. You think this is over, don't you? I turned. Lydia stood close enough for her perfume to sting. You think you've won, but I've got documentation, real ones, of you agreeing to our partnership. Emails, texts. You'll lose everything when they see what I've got. Her voice shook, not with fear, but with conviction. It hit me then. She believed her own lies. You forged them, I said quietly. You've been doing this for so long you can't tell what's real anymore. Her expression cracked, just for a second, before the smirk returned. See you in court, little sister. James stepped between us. That restraining order's active as of 5 minutes ago. Walk away. The weeks that followed blurred together. Police statements, affidavits, and the hollow ringing of betrayal. Detective Sarah Williams called one morning. Ms. Timmer, we've found enough to move forward. Identity theft, forgery, mail fraud, wire fraud, and... She hesitated. It looks like your sister's done this before. I gripped the phone. Before? Where? 5 years ago. Out of state. Same pattern. She moved into a cousin's house while he was deployed. Claimed abandonment, forged paperwork. He didn't press charges because family intervened. I closed my eyes. My parents knew. I can't say for sure, Detective Williams said gently, but your father co-signed a few of her old debts. The pattern fits. The eviction finally came a month later. When I arrived with the sheriff, Lydia was already gone. The tenants had packed up, bewildered but cooperative. The house was a ruin. She'd smashed holes through the drywall, poured concrete down the drains, ripped the HVAC system apart like revenge in metallic form. I stood in the center of the wreckage, breathing through my teeth. Evan found me there that evening, arms crossed against the cold. She wanted to leave you nothing worth keeping. She succeeded, I said. He touched my shoulder. Not nothing. Then came the plea deal. James explained it over coffee, tapping the contract. She can plead to lesser charges, serve 18 months, pay restitution, and be barred from real estate activity for 10 years. She'll never agree, I said. He sighed. Probably not, but it's an option. 2 nights later, I got an email from a burner address. You may have won this round, but I know things about your London trip. Documents you'd rather not see public. Sign the house over to me or I'll expose everything. I stared at the message until the words swam. Blackmail. From a woman already facing prison. I forwarded it to Detective Williams. An hour later, she replied, She just violated her bail. We're on it. That was the last time Lydia sent me anything herself. The next day, officers found her with a duffel bag and 2 forged IDs. She'd been trying to leave the state. Her plea deal collapsed. The DA upgraded the charges. When sentencing came, Lydia barely looked at me. Her lawyer did the talking. 3 to 5 years. Minimum security. Full restitution. As the gavel fell, the judge said, Ms. Timmer, your sister trusted you. You betrayed that trust with remarkable creativity. Consider this time a chance to understand the value of honesty. Lydia smiled faintly. Honesty's overrated. I walked out before she could finish. That night, sitting on the porch of the half-repaired house, I watched the porch light flicker on for the first time in months. Evan sat beside me, quiet. She's really going to prison, I said. She earned it, he replied. I nodded, but the truth didn't feel like victory. Just relief. Thin and cold. When I finally went inside, I noticed something on the mantel. A homebody mug, cracked down the middle. A ghost of the woman who'd stolen my house, my name, and almost my peace. I picked it up, held it over the trash bin, then stopped. No, let it stay, a reminder. Some scars you don't hide, you frame them where you can see. For a while I thought prison would end it. That Lydia's sentence meant peace. Silence, finally. But peace, like property, isn't something you get to keep just because you earned it. 2 months after the sentencing, the calls began. Unknown numbers, silent lines. Then the letters, rambling, bitter, written in a hand I knew too well. You ruined me. You stole my chance. You're not better than me, Terry. You just got lucky. Each page reeked of perfume and resentment. I turned them over to the detective, but my hand still shook after every envelope. Then came the call from my cousin, Michael. Your dad's been visiting her every week, he said. They're planning something. My chest tightened. Planning what? She's got him convinced the property was bought with stolen family money. They're talking about suing you for restitution. Lydia says Grandma's inheritance was meant to be shared. I laughed. Sharp. Humorless. She spent her share on a food truck. I used mine as a down payment. That was 8 years ago. She says you cheated her. Of course she did. Lydia could turn a memory into a weapon, and guilt into gasoline. By spring, the lawsuit arrived. Filed under my father's name, unjust enrichment, demanding I hand over the house or pay $200,000 representing Lydia's rightful share. James nearly threw the papers across his office. This isn't just baseless, it's harassment. Detective Williams agreed. We'll flag it as abuse of process. The judge will see right through it. And she did. The case was dismissed within a week, my father given a formal warning against further filings. But that was the moment I understood. Lydia didn't need freedom to cause chaos. She just needed willing hands, and Dad was all too willing. Mom called me crying again. Your father just wants to help her. He thinks she's not safe in there. She's not safe because she built her prison, Mom. Stop pretending this is my fault. Terry. No, I said. If you keep defending her, you're choosing her over me. Again. The silence on the line said everything. Meanwhile, Lydia was busy behind bars. Detective Williams called one afternoon, sounding both exhausted and amazed. Your sister's been writing letters to other inmates' families, offering to help them recover lost properties. She even tried filing bogus liens against a few homes. She's running scams from prison? I whispered. Not anymore, the detective said. They caught her. She's getting another 5 years. I didn't celebrate. I just stared out the window, watching the light fade across the lawn I once thought I'd lost forever. Weeks later, a woman named Jennifer emailed me. A nurse, soft-spoken, even through text. I've been writing to your sister. She told me she was a real estate developer framed by her jealous sibling. I sent her money. I feel so stupid. I called her. We talked for hours about the lies, the evidence, the manipulation. She cried quietly, then thanked me for saving her from years of waiting for a fantasy. Another victim in Lydia's wake. Another woman she'd fooled with charm and pity. When I hung up, I felt something new. Not anger, not even grief. Just the heavy finality of understanding. Some people don't want redemption. They want an audience. Months passed. Repairs finished. The rental, once gutted and haunted, filled again with normal life. A family with 2 small kids and a dog named Piper. I kept my distance, but sometimes drove by at dusk just to see lights glowing through clean windows. Proof that something ruined could be rebuilt. Evan and I moved into a new apartment together. Small, sunlit, safe. He hung the yellow 2-fix pad on our fridge like a trophy. Guess we finished the list, he said one night. Almost, I replied, tapping the last unchecked line. Forgive myself. Then, one final call from Detective Williams. Just wanted you to know, she said. Lydia's transfer went through. Maximum security now. No correspondence privileges for at least a year. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. Thank you. Ms. Timmer, you've handled this with more strength than most. But make sure you keep healing. Trauma doesn't end with a conviction. I know, I said quietly, but at least it ends with distance. A year later, I stood at the front door of the rental, now freshly painted pale blue, new locks, new life. I placed the old cracked homebody mug on the porch step, not as a keepsake, as a boundary marker. The woman who tried to take everything from me once drank from it. Now it sat empty, like her schemes, like the space she left behind. I turned the key, my key, and locked the door. Then I walked to my car, sunlight catching in the window glass. For the first time in years, it wasn't reflection I saw staring back. It was freedom.